Throughout our history, this country has faced times of peril. But standing by our side as it does tonight has been baseball. When our young nation was divided against itself, the bleeding battlefields often gave way to this game.
It received its baptism in the bloody days of our nation's direst danger, when soldiers, north and south, were striving to forget their foes. Albert Spalding.
When depression struck down the roaring 20s, Americans faced a frigidly bleak and uncertain future.
Next to religion, baseball has furnished a greater impact on American life than any other institution. President Hoover.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
A month after speaking these words, with our country on the threshold of a war unlike anything mankind had seen, it was a simple letter which underlined the basic need for something normal.
I honestly feel that it would be best for the country to keep baseball going. President Roosevelt's green light letter.
16 years before he marched on Washington with Dr. King, he was a baseball player who showed the nation the definition of courage.
He was a freedom rider before freedom rides. Dr. Martin Luther King on Jackie Robinson.
After a shocking attack shook this country to its core, we were afraid. But for many, one pitch on a baseball field showed us that our fears, although vivid and real, would pass. Baseball will never heal or solve our problems. When the last out is made, they still remain. But for 9 innings, no matter the troubles we face, we can be reminded of all that we as a nation have been through, all that is good and all that can be.
I think that both baseball
And the country
will endure. John F. Kennedy.
Cabrera kicked dirt at me after the first pitch. I was like, did that just happen? Then he was yelling at me, like, throw it over the plate or, and cussing at me. So I was all right. So I went right at him and started saying some words, and I left it at that. And he just fired me up to want to get him out. I was fortunate enough to strike him out right there, and just leave it at that. So.
What happened after you struck him out?
I told him to go sit down. So that's all I did. I walked off. I said, go sit down. So.
I just get the idea. A little bit of this stuff, it just spices things up, I hear.
Well, see right here, first pitch, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely it spices things up, whatever. It's not like a starter that you're going to take a break for two or three days. This could happen tomorrow. This could happen the next day, or whatever.
But this guy's having an incredible year for these guys, isn't he? I think he's a big find. He's a guy that's had, what, 60 innings, punched out about 85 guys. He's given up 25 hits. It's an incredible year he's having.
Yeah, he struck out like 36% of the guys he's faced, which is
all fastballs.
Yeah. He throws probably about 95% fastballs. You know it's coming.
And he's excited, just like, he had to admit, Guillen, that he's excited. Big-time game.
Have you faced him, Curtis?
I've missed him every time out there, but I talked to Maglio Ordonez. He said, I don't know what it is, but his fastball has a little extra life on it. He just can't seem to catch up to it.
And how do your guys react when you see them? I mean, does he give you some of that stuff when you guys are facing him, too?
You know what? I'm not sure if I heard Pedroia.
Throw from Gabe Gross.
So now Euclid is up and down a strike. And he homered leading off the second inning. Remember, he started 0 for 17 against Shields, but went 2 for 3 against him in game 1. And with that second inning homer, 3 for his last 4. Ground ball towards short. That'll get a run in, and the Boston Red Sox lead.
Cleanup hitters are supposed to drive in runs, and Euclid does that very effectively with a simple ground ball to the shortstop. Pedroia hustles in with the go-ahead run. And Euclid always does his job. He knows what he was supposed to do there. Infield back, put the ball in the ground.
Just fine. Mr. Execution is...
second time in the last 4 years.
The Major League season's officially now underway from Tokyo.
Michigan wins.
He is not a clutch hitter. He's not a clutch player.
Is it clutch? Reds win. Oh, goodness.
Leach makes the play. Oh, now he dropped the ball.
Now, I don't know if you would consider that a wet gun, but it's got to be one of the strangest plays you've ever seen in your life.
Here comes that throw for Van Keel. He got him.
How could he know this new dawn light would change his life forever? Set sail to sea, but pulled off course by the light of golden thread.
This one is toward the moon.
Either one,
Oh, it's tattooed.
with his hand is dreaming. Been afraid, always afraid of the things he's feeling. He could just be gone. He would just sail on. You just sail on.
We just want to take this moment to salute you, the greatest fans in the world.
How can I be
He's at the wall, and he made a catch and hung on.
where to go? Search the seas of gold. How come it's got so cold? How can I?
Are you kidding me? The best of the year.
Inside relive? And how can I blame you when it's me I can't forgive?
Lester is 1 out away. John Lester thrown a no-hitter at Fenway.
The 3-2 from Zambrano.
No-hitter. And Frankie Rodriguez delivers. Save number 58.
And that one's gone, number 500.
Gives a high buck to the fan. What in the world was that?
Game-winning grand slam. Get out of here. Long ball. Kill me. Why can't I forget
Cole's going to head out. And just like that, it turns into fight night at Fenway Park.
Can't feel sorry for ourselves. Got to buckle it up and get after it.
Look out. Whoa, hey now. This will get something started. Pulling a little something out of the Billy Martin handbook.
Sheffield said bring it on. Carmona met the challenge.
He's got 3 tonight.
The Phillies are the National League Eastern Division champions. The Brewers take the lead. The Brewers win.
The Mets' year ends in to Jeff Kent. Kent thought it was low. It was low on box tracks. He argued with Mike Winters, called out, and the threat was over.
Wise down 0-2. As he takes strike 3, Sonnenstein picks up his 4th K, and there's 2 down in the 5th.
Well, there's the frustration again when you have a pitcher that continues to move the ball around. That ball might have been up a little bit, and that's what the complaint was, but he's done a nice job of moving his pitches in and out.
Was saying something to Jeff Kellogg.
Video of his little dust-up in June with Deanna Navarro, his catcher, in the dugout. What is the fallout from that?
Yeah, I mean, for his YouTube moment, that actually turned out to be a turning point in his career, according to manager Joe Madden. Now, that was June the 8th. The next day, Matt Garza came in and said to Joe Madden, I need help. He needed help controlling his emotions on the mound. Joe Madden put him in touch with a sports psychologist out in California. They began working together immediately. Now, that day, Matt Garza's ERA was 4.38. Since then, it's been a full run lower, and we saw in Game 3, he went out to the mound in Fenway Park, pitching against John Lester, was in total command of his stuff and his emotions. Obviously, here in Game 7 tonight, the stakes are even higher.
Soft breaking ball is hit a bunt up near the catwalk. High, deep, far, and gone. 2 at-bats, 2 home runs for Evan Longoria. Welcome to the postseason, Evan Longoria.
When in your process did you see this team maybe having a chance to be a playoff contender?
You know, other than the 7-game slide that we had at the end of the first half, I think we were maybe 10 games over 500 at the time. I mean, you know, when you're right up there with the Yankees and the Red Sox in Toronto at the halfway point, you know, there's kind of a feeling that, hey, you know, if we're not buried by this point, we can kind of hang around and do this.
How did you turn it around chemistry-wise?
I think the biggest thing was being able to bring in the veteran leaders, and the Cliff Lloyd and Eric Hinsky and Troy, first of all, have really solidified this clubhouse.
An excellent poise on the part of a 22-year-old rookie in that atmosphere today.
No sign of nerves whatsoever, especially Longoria. He stepped right in the lineup. But I love it when you first at bat off a pitch or whatever else, you can set the tone by hitting that first pitch, and then you can go up there and look for something else.
Well, I remember a guy that I played against for a long time and actually was teammates with, and you remind me a lot of, is Cal Ripken. He was rookie of the year, won the World Series his first year. Do you ever look at Cal's career and maybe see the parallels?
You know, I mean, obviously I look to Cal as one of the greatest players that ever played the game. I mean, I don't want to say that my career parallels his because, you know, you just can't. He's Cal Ripken Jr., but at the same time, if there was ever a person to model yourself after, he'd be a great guy.
Were there guys with that stature and that frame that you kind of looked up to and said, I can be this type of player?
A-Rod, I'd have to say, would be the only guy. I mean, you know, him being a big shortstop coming up, you know, he did it all. He stole bags. He hit for power. He hit for average. And he was kind of a guy who, you know, I would say if I modeled myself after anybody growing up, it would have been him.
Well, what happened between high school and college to be a #1 draft pick?
I think a lot of physical maturity more than anything, and you know, along the way, you know, just learning how to play the game the right way. But I was really skinny. That was the thing. I mean, I was probably 5'10", 5'11" coming out of high school. Did about 2-3 inches worth of growing after that, and just started to put on some muscle mass.
Draft day comes, and you're gonna be the #1 guy, and it ends up being Tampa Bay. You're like, well, what? Tampa Bay? The Devil Rays, they don't ever win.
2006 first-year player draft. The Tampa Bay Devil Rays select Evan.
I was just excited because I knew it was going to give me a good chance to advance in the system, and I wasn't going to be sitting behind guys and, you know, watching the A-Rods of the world and David Wrights, you know, play for the next 10 years while I sat in the minor leagues. That was my biggest thing, was I was going to have a chance to get to the big leagues quick.
The 2-2 to Griffin. Struck him out. In the postseason for the first time, the Tampa Bay Rays are headed to the American League Championship Series.
When you look back on this year, what do you take away? I know we're in postseason mode now, but what do you take away from this year when you look back?
It has a chance to be one of the most magical seasons that I've ever been a part of. I mean, to to come from, you know, the worst team in baseball to turn that around and have the second or third best record in baseball. I mean, it's just unbelievable how far this team's come.
Now for Evan, certainly the postseason began magically. That debut, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, but since then, as we pointed out, 1 for 16, 8 Ks, as he tries to fight out of it in Game 2 of the ALCS. And that brings us to Cal, who's over here at the pitch tracks area. Why is Evan Longoria in this slump?
Well, when you're hitting, you're nice and relaxed and you're staying back. When you're not, whether you're young, old, whatever, you get jumpy. And jumpy means you just get out on your front side too soon. You go to try to hit the ball. And really the key to hitting is letting the ball travel to you and staying back. So when you get out here in this position right here, you're done. But when you're back in this position, you're good. So let me show you what jumpy looks like in Evan Longoria's last at-bat in the 8th inning. He was off of Justin Masterson. The first pitch, he jumps out there with the front side, takes it for ball 1. Okay. Then he jumps out there again, and it's a breaking ball. Now it's 2-0. Good hitting count. He jumps out there again, swings at a bad pitch. Because when you're jumpy, you don't see too well. And there's 2-1 slider right here, out jumpy again, 2-2. Now he's going to take a really defensive swing. He gets out on his front foot and hits into a 6-4-3 double play. Now with pitch tracks right here, we can show you what that last slider looked like. And when you are jumpy and you get out on your front foot too soon, you've already committed all your energy out front, and all you have left is just a little flick of the wrist, which is what you saw hit the little 6-4-3 double play. Now, if you look here from the side, there's a fine line. What this probably looks more like what Manny Ramirez looks like, really in a good position to hit right here. And Evan Longoria and even Dustin Pedroia, who said, you could read his lips yesterday, he said, I need to stay back. And really what that means is get into this position. And when you're in this position, you're in a good position to hit. When you're out here, you're not.
Well, Josh Beckett, easy guy to get well against. No, he has had some success. Thank you very much for that, Cal. And when you were talking to Evan, and you drew the parallel, it kind of brought Cal into that conversation.
Yeah.
And there's good reason to do that.
Well, the reason was physically, you know, Evan's a big kid. When I first met Cal's 6'4". You know, you don't realize a guy is that big playing shortstop. Evan's a big kid. He's 6'4", 6'3" in that area, but he's got big hands. And then you get him in the stance, standing upright, very similar to Cal. And you know, see how he stays behind the baseball there. Cal used to drift a long ways, and he was so strong. The most impressive thing I saw Cal do was we were playing in Oakland. He was struggling, and he hit off a tee. Frank Robinson and Brooks Robinson show up to work with him. I had Greg Buick, you know, here it goes. But anyway, that's another story. But he's hitting off the tee in Oakland. He's hitting balls in the upper deck, in the outfield, in the seats, off the tee from home plate. So my question to you is, you remember that, don't you?
Sure, absolutely.
My question to you is, how does a guy get out of the problem that Evan's having right now with drifting?
I was a jumpy hitter. When I tried too hard, I went out there too soon, and I'm in a bad position to hit. The tee was a way to restore that, because the tee sits right here and waits for you. You take your energy back. You practice taking your energy back and staying back, and that gives you a chance to be behind the ball. But you have to talk yourself down in those pressure moments and say, look, I have to control myself, let the ball come to me. That's the only way I can hit.
If you're on the mound today and you're talking to Jason Varitek and you're going up and down the Tampa Bay order, when you get to Evan Longoria's name, what are you saying?
Well, I mean, it's easy to say don't throw him a strike, but that wasn't me. I didn't pitch like that. You know, getting back to that at bat, anybody's going to, you're going to be jumpy at the least bit. And Justin Masterson, this kid's nasty. He's throwing nasty sinkers, nasty sliders. It's a tough time to be, you know, jumpy when Masterson's on the mound. You better adjust.
When we come back, it's a day off in the NLCS. We'll look ahead to Game 3 between the Phillies and the Dodgers when we come back.
Thank you very much. Oz, you certainly did it in the regular season and certainly in the postseason. We look back on that 85 go crazy cut. Was that the defining moment of the career?
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
From an offensive standpoint, that certainly was a defining moment. But, you know, when you get in the postseason, they have more time to prepare for you, you know. So you got to be ready to bring it.
Harder to be clutch.
Very, very hard to be clutch because they do more study, and if there's a weakness, they can exploit it.
Got to love the guys that shine, though, don't you? I mean, that's what you want to do, right? You live for that.
In the regular season, you have 162 games to get the job done. In the postseason, you may only have 7. So the guys that get it done, those are the ones that really step up their game and perform in the clutch.
You know, in 03 was my first time. It seemed like everything went a bazillion miles an hour. And I always thought experience was overrated as a younger guy. You know, thinking, oh, what do you mean it's better before? What do you mean? But then in 04 came, second time around, your heart rate starts slowing down. Don't let us win this game tonight. Then they get Petey, and then they get Shield Game 6, and Game 7, anything happens. And I think that's when the guys that perform the best, the clutch performers, seems like their heart rate's always down.
You watched all those superstars in that team perform during the regular season. Then you saw them do it in the postseason. Did you say to yourself, I can't believe that they're doing it on this stage, or could you tell they were going to do it on that stage?
Well, your Millar, your Manny Ramirez, your Pedro Martinez.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're thinking. But no, it's the truth, though, because the good ones, their heart rate's just a little bit slower.
All right, let's check in on the postseason so far this season to find out who's shining in the spotlight.
We are almost ready for playoff baseball. The crowd on its feet.
Rally towels waving for a sellout crowd. This is the kind of moment you play 162 games for.
Young players can make a name for themselves by coming up clutch in October.
Two at-bats, 2 home runs. Welcome to the postseason, Evan Longoria.
The Red Sox win the game! Game-winning hit by the rookie Jed Lowry.
And seasoned veterans with a clutch legacy can carry a team.
There's a shot into center field. Manny Ramirez is just unbelievable. Manny does it again. Well, I tell you, this is a totally different Dodger team. Manny came in, took the team on his shoulders there, and took all the weight off their shoulders. This one is well up into the bleachers. Home run for Manny Ramirez.
Look where that ball is. It's almost on the ground.
It's like a shoot-top home run.
It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Sometimes clutch heroes come out of nowhere and become household names overnight.
Swinging a drive. Braun going. Come on. He looks up. And it is gone. Grand slam. Victorino. An unbelievable postseason of clutch hitting continues for Shane Victorino.
The flying Hawaiian also came up clutch in the field.
To center field. Back is Victorino and makes the catch. What a catch by Shane Victorino. The inning is over. The lead is intact.
The Phils played clutch defense throughout the postseason.
Line drive caught. Utley goes to the bag for the double play. What a play by Chase Utley.
Utley gets the Phillies out of this inning.
And with his team behind him, NLCS MVP Cole Hamels proved to be a dominant force.
He has become a proven ace and a big game performer for the Phillies.
Cole Hamels is awesome. Hamels has been as good as any pitcher in baseball.
With the possible exception of teammate Brad Lidge, perfect in save opportunities during the season, perfect in the postseason.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out, and the ball game is over. He's been worth every penny and every player they gave to get him.
In the American League, the Tampa Bay Rays were also well on their way to the World Series when they ran into the most clutch playoff team of this decade.
It is difficult to believe, but the Boston Red Sox are still alive.
But in the decisive Game 7, the AL Clutch Team of the Year persevered.
2 down in the 9th inning. David Price, the 23-year-old left-hander, will face Jed Lowry.
Price comes second. This place about ready to bust. Swinging a ground ball to second. This should do it. Hockey makes it to second. A fifth and probable season has another chapter to it. The Rays are going to the World Series.
The World Series is set. The quest begins for baseball's most coveted prize. The Phillies. The Rays. Who will come up clutch and be world champion? With the departure of Johan Santana and Torrey Hunter, few thought Minnesota would contend for the playoffs, but they almost won their division, thanks in great part to their clutch cleanup hitter, Justin Morneau.
It seems like every time there's a man on second and we need a big hit, he hits a double.
Again, Justin Morneau has come through with a game-tying double.
Or every time there's a man on first and we need a big hit, he hits a home run.
Two-run homer for Justin Morneau.
And it's time and time again, so you tend to take it for granted.
He's already had an MVP year. He's working on another one. He's a big left-handed bat that has established himself.
He hit that ball into the middle of next week.
Maybe because he's in Minnesota, maybe doesn't get the national exposure he should. But I think with players and coaches and GM, they understand what kind of player he is.
Justin did catch the eyes of the nation when he won the 2008 Home Run Derby. But it's not just home run power that makes this Canadian so clutch.
He's a big, strong guy that can hit a lot of home runs if he wants to, but a lot of times you see him take that single the other way and drive in a run.
There's a base hit left field. Cusina's going to score. Morneau drives him in.
He's a clutch hitter, just as tough out as there is that I've played against in the last few years.
This year, teams have tried to pitch around him a lot more, that he's learned to use the whole field, and, you know, that's produced a lot of runs.
Morneau drives it to deep right center. Mauer around third. He'll come home. RBI number 129.
He's gotten kind of knocked this year about not having the power, not having the 30 home runs as he did the previous 2 years, and people do tend to overlook the 47 doubles.
And a new Twins record in doubles in Justin Morneau.
For me, it's keeping it as simple as possible. You know, if it means they're throwing everything away, hitting the ball the other way, and it's whatever the situation needs, and try not to do anything more than what it needs.
Swinging a ground ball, base hit, game over. Harris scores. Justin Morneau has the game winner, and the Minnesota Twins have pulled out an extra inning win.
Coming up.
Right? Give me a break. Get out of here. This is a worst to first turnaround. The Sun has literally done it. Look at the average record of the last 10 years. Finished 9 out of 10 seasons last place. Kevin, this didn't just happen overnight.
Well, you know what? It started in spring training with Joe Madden and his ball club. Joe Madden talked about accountability, playing hard, and winning in spring training for a team that's always, for the most part, in last place is important. And this time, this is what happened right here. Elliot Johnson, a kid trying to make the ball club, a triple A second baseman, knocks over the Yankee young catcher that played double A and broke his arm. So the Yankees retaliated. It was a clean play. He didn't get the kid to baseline. So what, the Yankees retaliated 4 days later, and here's Johnny Gomes backing up E. Ramiro, who gets knocked over by Shane Duncan. Cheap shots right and left. Well, here's James Shields later on the season in June. Coco Chris the day before had a hard slide and took out E. Ramiro as well. James Shields retaliated in the second inning of that game, June the 5th, knowing he would get kicked out, but it was more important to make a statement. We're not going to take it anymore from the Yankees. We're not going to take it anymore for the Red Sox. And guess what? They did it by playing baseball, and they're here right now in the World Series.